welcome to another food preparation nutrition video demonstration. This week we are learning how to make flapjacks. Now, as always, when you come into the class, same as always, first thing you need to do is wash those hands, make sure they're nice and clean. You're going to want to preheat your ovens today to 180 degrees C. So remember, turn the left hand dial to the fan, the right hand dial to 180, which I've already done. And then you're going to need to get your ingredients out and collect your equipment. Now, equipment from us today, first thing you're going to need is a pan, like so. So try and get a medium to large size pan. The next thing you're going to need is one of your plastic spoons, which are going to be found in the black tray units down next to me here. And today's one of those strange ones where we're actually going to ask you to bring in part of your own equipment. So you're going to need to provide and bring in your own metal baking tin. Now, I've got this one. This is quite a nice one to use because it's quite thin. It's quite a flat one for flapjacks. Okay. Now, you can also provide ones that I got earlier. One like this. This is a bit smaller. This is like a 12-inch square tin. Now, this is absolutely fine as well, but they're a little bit deeper and therefore they'll take longer in the oven. So something along these lines would be perfect. What we're also going to hopefully ask you to do, if you've got it, is get some grease-proof paper and put some grease-proof paper in the tin as well for you to bring, so it's all ready to go when you arrive in your lesson. Now, the reason we want you to provide your own tins is because with flapjacks, this is the perfect thing to be able to transport it home in. So we can't give you one of these because then you'll have to take our equipment home with you and we'll have a lesson the next day and we won't be able to do that. Okay, so it's important that you try and provide your own tin, like so, for you to be able to transport and cook your flapjacks in. So today's quite a quick one in terms of getting it ready and getting it cooked. It just takes a long time in the oven and it takes a long time in the blast unit to bring it to cool it down again. Okay, that's what we need to make sure our flapjack goes in the blast chiller and it cools down and sets. So first thing we're going to do is get our pan. I'm going to place all of my butter into the pan. Get my hands in there. There we go, like so. Lovely jubbly. I'm going to get my sugar in there as well. This is why we said about getting a nice sort of medium to large pan, because there's lots of ingredients going to go in there. My sugar's been in the bowl for about an hour, so it's got actually set into the shape of a bowl, which is always handy. And I'm going to put my 2 tablespoons of golden syrup into there as well. So I'll turn mine upside down. Just get one. Get it all in. And 2. I think I've literally got about 2 tablespoons left of mine. There we go. Get it all out. And that is perfect. Now, once you've got all those ingredients in your pan, you're going to want to turn your hobs on and you're going to want to reduce that down. So basically, you're going to try and dissolve all of that. Dissolve all of that sugar and melt all of that butter. So I'm going to put it on my hob, hopefully one that this camera next to me can see. And I'll turn that on. Where are we? Let's start on here. Like so. And all I'm going to do is keep an eye on it. And I'm going to keep sort of moving it around the pan. I don't have to continuously move it. There's no need to continuously stir this. But you're just going to move it around the pan just so you don't get any burnt spots with the sugar sitting on the bottom. So you can get the butter towards the bottom so that melts, and then just keep moving the rest of it around. Now, I'm not going to make you sit and watch this whole thing while it reduces and while the butter melts and while we dissolve the sugar. So we'll do a little cut scene and then we'll come back to you once it is ready. Okay, so as you hope you can see with this camera next to me, it starts to reduce down quite nicely. Now, I've got this, I should have said, on quite a low heat, so it's just under halfway. I don't want to have the heat on too high because that's going to burn the sugar, and that sugar is then going to start sticking and caramelising to the bottom of my pan. And that, first of all, is not going to taste very nice. It'll be quite a bitter taste, but also it'll be a nightmare to wash up. So hopefully you can see now, I've got my butter's melted and my sugar. If I just move that around, it's almost started to caramelise. You see that nice browning colour just there. So I'm going to mix that all in. Now, as soon as that has got to that point, you're going to turn your heat off. I no longer need any heat on that because I don't need to cook it anymore in the pan. But what I'm going to do, whilst that's still nice and warm and still nice and melted. I'm going to get my oats first, so quite a lot of oats today. I'm going to put my oats into this mixture, and as you can see that starts to fill up that pan even more. I'll show you on this camera, it really starts to fill that pan. What I'm going to do is very carefully, what I don't want to do, exactly what I just said I don't want to do, is start throwing oats out of my pan and throwing them all over the place. Which is why if you use one of the small pans, you're just not going to have enough room for it. So I'm just going to mix this around the mixture. So mix all that in. Make sure those oats are all nice and covered. Okay, so it's just about stirring that in. And remember, I'm off the heat now, so I haven't got my hob turned on. I'm just using my hob as a work surface, because as you know, we don't put anything hot on our tables. So I am literally just working on here because the pan will still be hot. Now once they're mixed through, I'm going to get my flour. And I'm just going to sprinkle my flour in. And I'm going to mix this in. Now it's really important you mix the flour in fully. And what you're looking to do is trying to get rid of any sort of white spots, really. You don't want clumps of white. So you're going to mix this in again thoroughly, just to get rid of all of those white sort of clumps, really. Okay, so I'm just going to mix it all in. I say this hasn't taken very long. I've only been doing this for literally total 3 or 4 minutes. It didn't take long to reduce down the butter and the golden syrup and sugar. So I'm just looking around, scraping around the bottom of the edges of the pan just to make sure I've definitely got all of that flour. There's no lumps of white flour sort of sitting around. You don't want that sitting into your flapjack. Okay, that's done. So at this stage you could have that being the end of your flapjack, but what we can do now is you can add anything you like into a flapjack, and that's the beauty of it. You can add dried fruit, you can add nuts, you could add anything you want that you think would go nice into a flapjack. Now for now, what we're going to add is just some dried fruit, some raisins. So I'm going to add my raisins into there now. And again, just so it's mixed through, just fully mix it in. Again, try not to throw raisins everywhere, Mr. Hale. Gosh. Let's get around, try not to be too messy. So it's just about getting it all mixed in, so there's a nice even consistency. Again, you don't want one spot of flapjack having a huge clump of dried fruit or raisins or whatever it is, and the rest of it having none. So you just want to sort of mix it around so it's nice and even. Now once you've done that, I'll bring my tray over here so hopefully you'll be able to see that. So I'm just going to put it on top there. Now in my lined tin, I'm now just going to pour this mixture, or scrape this mixture I should say, because it doesn't pour very well as you can imagine, into this tin. And again, I'm going to try my very best not to be messy, because I don't want to waste any of the flapjack. And what I'm going to have to now try and do is work this flapjack and almost flatten it down into the corners. I'm going to scrape all of this out, so all of that golden syrup, all that sugar that I reduced down earlier is what's going to give it the nice flavour. I don't want to leave any of it in there. And what I'm going to do, I should got some cool, but I'll put that there just in case. What I'm going to do is use the back of the spoon and push this into the corner. You'll see on this camera here, hopefully. I'm just going to work that so it's nice and flat. You don't really want bulged areas of your flapjack. And just push that into the corners and almost flatten it down. I'm going to get that off with my finger there. Get a bit messy with this one. Don't want to waste anything, it be on the spoon. Just flatten it down, just push it into this corner, a bit of a low spot in this corner here. Now as I said, this is going to go in the oven eventually for around 20 to 25 minutes, depending on how thick your flapjack is. Now as you can see, mine is only going to be sort of like this, excuse the oats on my finger. It's only going to be sort of like this deep, because my tray will be that deep. But if you had a really deep tray, it would take longer for you to actually cook it in the oven. Right, there you go. So I think that has almost got a flat, nice consistency that I show you in that camera just there. Lovely. So once you're at this stage, we can get them in the oven. If they go in the oven, you should have preheated the oven to 180 degrees, and that's going in the oven for around 20 to 25 minutes. While that's going on, you can obviously start your washing up, because this is going to be quite difficult to wash up because it's quite sticky. So you're going to want to scrape as much as you can into the bins. We don't want food and things going to our sinks. So scrape as much as you can, the leftover, into the bin, and start washing up whilst this is in the oven. I'll see you in a quick cut scene when mine's coming out of the oven. See you in a minute. Okay guys, welcome back. So my alarm, or my little buzzer, has just gone off on my oven, so I'm going to get the flapjacks out of the oven now. So obviously it's going to be hot, so you're going to need to make sure you wear your oven gloves. Open my oven up. Oh, very nice. Now, as you can see, you can put yours straight onto your hob, but just so the camera can see better, I'm going to place mine on this heat mat. You can see, hopefully from this camera here, that is nicely browned. It's lovely. It's hardened up a little bit, which is really nice. And that will be a really lovely flapjack. Now what you're going to need to do is take it out of the oven and put it straight into the blast chiller in the tin that you've cooked it in. So the whole thing can in the blast chiller. It's going to want to go in the blast chiller for about 10-15 minutes. So while it's in there, carry on cleaning your desks, carry on cleaning your sinks, getting the room looking absolutely spotless, and then hopefully by the end of the lesson it'll be ready to take home. If it's not, you can leave them there overnight, because we'll move them into the fridge for you and you can pick them up the next day. So it's not necessarily the end of the world if it overruns slightly. Thank you very much for watching, and we look forward to seeing your creations in your lessons next time.